Hi, this is Anthony Parent of IRS Medic, and we are having an incredible summer. Our weekly series is really taking off, and we're really getting bottom of the issues. And not only that, there are incredible updates happening as we speak. Now, one thing that we would say isn't so good and is incredibly concerning and is really capturing the attention of everyone, which is good because these outrages have been going on for years and years and years, is the prospect of 87,000 new IRS employees. Now, whether or not you believe the IRS can meet that number or not, or whatever happened, ultimately, this cannot be looked as a good thing. And primarily because what the IRS does right now is terrible. And adding more people to the fire will only make the situation far, far worse. Americans abroad, anyone with any foreign international connections already know what the full brunt of the IRS is. Anyone traveling interstate with a large amount of cash with unexplained reasons knows what the Bank Secrecy Act will do. They'll seize your money without any court orders. We are so out of control. And as it's all burning, we wonder, when are people gonna get going here? Well, hopefully now. Hopefully now we have your attention. Well, I don't know, John Richardson, our great guest. What do you say? Are these 87,000 new employees just going to help us? Or are they all here to help us? What do you say?
Well, the first thing I would say is that I think it's a bad idea to turn this into a partisan political issue. I see all kinds of stuff on social media between, the usual Republicans versus Democrats with, as it stands right now, both taking, I think, extremist positions. But I think that's extremely unhelpful. I think at a bare minimum, our focus is on Americans abroad. This cannot be good for Americans abroad for a very, very simple reason. That, everything that I have read about this suggests that the view is that the area for heightened enforcement and audits is in the area of more complex tax returns. Where they're just harder to do. There's more moving parts. Therefore there's probably a better return. On an audit. I mean, what's there to audit if somebody just gets has an employment income? Right? There's nothing to audit them. What do you do? Etc. But as we all know, for Americans abroad, you get these returns that, I mean, a small one is 50 pages, right? And they can go into hundreds of pages of complexity, et cetera. So this, I think, I actually think that because of the complexity of the returns, I think Americans abroad are actually at greater risk of problems from this. But we don't know where that's going to go, and it's going to be a slow rollout. Okay, I mean, nothing's going to happen today or tomorrow or anything like that. But what I do think is that rather than the political parties and their representatives on Twitter or Facebook, what have you, I think that it's time to realize that what unites Americans abroad is far greater than what divides them. What unites them is being subjected to these complex tax returns that therefore I think make them perhaps a better target for audits and that than resident Americans. And I think that what this means is that it's a real message, okay, saying, by God, Americans abroad as a group have really got to double down, come together, and get these laws changed. I think if I can just conclude on this, I think it's entirely disingenuous to go around saying, well, this doesn't matter. Okay, it does matter.
All right. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I hope it matters now. Because this is what everyone needs to understand, because here's the frightening thing. If you've been paying attention to the IRS, how the IRS culture has been changing over the decades, it's crazy, because it used to be, this is really the way to say it, the IRS would spread the misery around. Their wonderful touch, they would spread to everybody, low income, medium, high, around. But things changed. And it happened when the IRS started to get partisan themselves. What happened is Republicans said, we're not going to give you their budget. So the 90,000 employees total has been stripped down and down and down. But the IRS, unable to admit that perhaps they were wrong, says, oh, we could do more with a smaller budget. So what do? What do? Oh, they go after the easy cases of a complex form that they likely don't understand, that they could just look at because I have these cases. Oh, I know that. Look, here's the problem. 20-year, I have a case right now with a 30-year, 20-year IRS examiner. She didn't even know what a Form 3520 was. She didn't. So this is what she did. She had to send it out to a 3520 specialist who informed her, oh, yes, this is not in compliance. And then that 30-year auditor comes back, oh, yes, you didn't even do this right. And we're looking in this position when we're looking at this, oh, my Lord, a high level IRS examiner who has been doing this for decades can't identify a 3520 and can't even identify if one is substantially complete or not. So the fact is this is what's going on right now. This stuff is, the IRS is doing it. They're already doing this nasty stuff. It's just at a small level. Now let's wait. They're jacking it up because these are easy penalties. How do you fight the process? How do you fight 5471 penalties when they don't even allow you to go to tax court to contest them? How many people can go to district court to say, okay, I'm going to try to sue this 5471 penalty. It's just cheaper to pay the 10 grand. But then sometimes the IRS gets greedy, don't they, though? They get a little greedy, and that's why we need some plaintiffs. Why don't we go to that? What's going on with you, Keith? Let's check in with you. I'm getting a little hot over here.
Yeah, no. I've been getting concerns as well, private messages and emails in regards to from Americans overseas. What does this mean? What does this mean for me? And I'm not able to answer it. I mean, and the people that contact me are people who are in the U.S. tax system, and they're very concerned, because they don't know if they've made a mistake, if they've done their return themselves, because they've never heard anything back from the IRS. So it's just a big, big worry and a big question mark. And, I think they kind of get tired of scaremongering, but this is actually something very real that can occur. I guess my question is that what you just said, Anthony, if the IRS agent and they hire more, which they will do, that's a given. We don't know the number, but how are they going to hire so many people to understand international tax returns? Because you had just said that you dealt with someone that didn't even understand. So
right.
Where does that put the IRS? Where does that put the taxpayer in that situation?
That's a great question, Keith, because it puts the taxpayer in the worst possible situation. And here's why, because just because the IRS doesn't understand the form whatsoever doesn't mean they won't assess the penalty automatically sometimes. So it's really, this is really financial terrorism. This is really what it is. They throw penalties out that they don't know what it is. It's a large amount, and it's just to boost up their numbers, so they could show, like, look how effective we are. Look, the other thing the IRS does, and this is getting more traction now, and many people know this, but their other target is earned income tax. People claim to earn income tax credit. They love auditing them, and if you actually look at the map of the heat map of where IRS audits are, they are red in all the poverty areas. And that is where the bulk of IRS audits are, all in the poorest areas of the country, for a tax code that was only going to impact the rich a little bit to pay for everything else. Funny how that was turned on its head. And now the IRS is also, but this is the thing that you need to understand about those low income tax audits. Look, here's the thing. When you have if the world's average IQ is 100, 50% of the people would be below 100. So how much? And so there's not, people are as intelligent as the tax code assumes we all are. I'm not the genius. The tax code assumes I'm a lot smarter than I are, but as much as I read it, I'm learning things every day.
Yeah, these poor people can't defend themselves when they get these.
And that's the other thing too. Well, my point. Thank you for that, Keith. The things that these people, wherever we are, in our abilities, so many of them don't even know they're under audit. They didn't even know. The taxpayer advocate followed up with a lot of people to say, "Hey, what'd you think of your earned income tax credit audit. And they're like, what are you talking about? And that's what we're dealing with. That is the monstrosity we're dealing with. And so
You mean the
if
taxpayer did
you
not
want to
even
where these
know?
87,000 are going to go, well, they're going to be attacking more of what they've been attacking.
Sorry, Anthony. So you mean the taxpayer didn't even know he or she was under audit?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. They got a letter from the IRS saying, hey, we need you to support your earned income tax credit thing, and whether the person opened the mail or not. They don't even know if they opened the mail. So it's a thing, and that's the bulk of IRS audits are done by correspondence, or otherwise known as a core audit. The field examinations are actually a little bit more rare, but those I have, and this is an anecdote I've shared. This is something I was told 5 years ago, and I am sure it has only gotten worse. And with that, I talked to a group manager in a field office, just chatting with her a little bit, seeing, what's going to do an investigation like I do. And she told me that half of her examiners refuse to work on international exams because they are too hard.
Well, Anthony, that may be the situation today, but they're going to they can easily just create a school. IRS, Auditing Americans Abroad 101 school, right? I mean, they just haven't focused on it. And I just,
yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly what, thank you. Yeah.
I just come back to the same basic point. I mean, I think what we all know is this, that there are certain returns, and that how do you even audit them? I mean, if somebody gets, what's that, a 1099 or something, and they're unauditable, right?
Right.
What are you going to do? Claim somebody's underreporting the alien income? I mean, it's crazy, right? So we know where the fertile, source of audits is. It's small and self-employed businessmen, Joe the plumber types. Okay, these small people who've decided they prefer to be self-employed, probably make less money, okay, than the people who've
I'm sure,
safety of employment, etc. Don't have the money to hire somebody to organize them, etc. We're spending 20 of 24 hours a day trying to eke out a meager living. These are the people,
yep,
where you're more likely to find mistakes. Number one, generally. Number two, the more complex the return, the more likely it is there's going to be problems. And there is no set of people on the planet that has returns that are more complex than a U.S. citizen living outside the United States, trying to comply, particularly the ones who are self-employed, who are married to a non-citizen spouse, who transfer funds, among family members who may not be American citizens, right? These are the people, who, in my experience, are most likely to have completed U.S. tax returns in good faith, usually paying a lot of money, but probably, a high percentage of compliance type problems, right? Including, Form 8938s that are not done properly, all kinds of things like that. And then, of course, we add to that the, it's so easy to get beyond 50,000 in penalties and tax debts, the passport revocation issue. But look, this is not today. This is not tomorrow. This is not next week or next year, right? This is the gradual accumulation of stuff down the road. And I want to come back to my original point. It is wrong, and it is a great mistake to turn this into a political issue. All right. It is done and dusted. The money's been allocated for the IRS. And I do think that Americans abroad who are in the system are at greater risk than resident Americans because of the potential to pick up more revenue on the audits.
And I just want to chime in and add my 2 cents to what you say about, and this is why I look at it as not a Republican or Democrat issue, is because both parties are completely useless. Kevin McCarthy had a chance. He knew the issue. He passed. There was no reason why I didn't. It just wasn't important. So we don't have. So Republicans don't really have too much going on either. They're not seeing the issue, and they're just not going to do anything about it. When they had the chance, these guys just, they passed. They don't have it. They're not going to help us out now.
Well, they
While
don't
this is,
care,
and this is,
Anthony, about Americans abroad, which I think, is a natural segue into our next topic, right? Today, this book
Mhm.
thing, right?
Yeah, let me get that up. So we are looking. This is we're not just agitating you for no reason at all. We're going to give you some hope in your life. So, um, we have some great things going on, and this is sort of, this is the summer of extremes that we're having here. There's great things and terrible things. So here's a really good thing going on. Let me share my screen here. And let's see. There is a book in going on right now. Let me get this here. I have that the Toronto ravine system there is up on the screen. You might see that right now. Let me see. Can you see the screen? And let me see. Here it is. Here. But this is John and I were talking about this, just for those of you who are wondering. There's a ravine system in Toronto where John lives, and it sounds absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
Justice,
it's unbelievable! It's unbelievable. I mean, anybody who comes to Toronto needs to spend some time in the ravines. I mean, there's nothing, as far as I know, there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. You can probably find a Wikipedia article. But I will say, Anthony, that most people who live in Toronto don't know about the ravines. So.
I got to get up and see you soon, John. Right on. All right, so this is what we have here. This is at seatnow.org. We've did some videos on this. This is the Stop Extraterritorial American Taxation. But hey, look, even if you're not an American expat, it's still important because these guys are the front lines, man. They are taking it on the chin, but they're also blazing great paths. And in 2014, and John, do you have my screen? If you want to take over from now and sort of explain.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So basically, to put this in context, I've been, sort of doing my best to help in this area for a lot of years. But what I've seen over the years is basically, I guess on one of my earlier shows, Anthony, I said it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't care that they don't care, right? It's sort of a total indifference to Americans abroad. And I thought it would be a really, really good idea. And at the same time, Americans abroad are always being said, write your congressman, write your, this, the more letters we get. Well, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I mean, I wouldn't say don't write your congressman, all right, or anything like that. But I think that what would be a useful project, I'm not sure exactly how it should be used, but a useful project would be to actually collect those letters that people have sent. I mean, there must be thousands of them, along with the stupid non-responses that they get, right? From their various. And the idea is, and it's such a simple project, but I think it could be so helpful, and there's no downside, is to actually create a book. And if you scroll up a little bit, I have a title for the book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Letters from Americans Abroad to Their Congressmen and Women. It's sort of a takeoff on a self-help book that I once read called Letters of a Businessman to His Son, where he gives advice. But what I would like to do here is actually get these letters, all right, and get these responses, and just put together a huge book. And maybe we title "It's Not That They Don't Care; It's That They Don't Care that they don't care." To actually demonstrate. I mean, it's one thing for me to say this on your show, and people say, "Well, no, that's not true. My congressman cares." No, your congressman does not care. Okay, but actually prove it. And one of the reasons this matters is if you want to just looking at the tweet that full disclosure, I wrote this post. Okay, but anyway, if you look at the tweet. Years ago, when I was in law school, well back in the last century, my classmates were people of Archimedes and Plato vintage and stuff like that, well before your time. But in any case, I remember sitting in a class talking about equal protection. What does equality mean? I was just nauseated by it because I was really young and, privileged and all this stuff, right? But this guy, the late Professor Dworkin, had this theory of equality saying, well, it certainly doesn't mean equality of outcome or anything like that. But what it does mean in a political context is the equal concern and respect of the legislature or Congress, right? I mean, there's certainly no equality. There's certainly no equal protection if a whole group is just, we don't give a damn about them. Agreed?
Yeah.
So my thought was that, and also, and by the way, on this theme of equal concern and respect for, I mean, I could never imagine all these years ago that I'd actually be quoting Ronald Dworkin. But anyway, I picked up this other book called "It's Taxing the Rich: It's a History of Taxing the Rich," and it's fascinating. Well, it's fascinating to me. I don't know, probably not to most people. Hence my ability to buy this expensive book for like $2 on a used bookstore site. But anyway, so the authors of this book in their introduction quote the same thing. Dworkin, that what equality means, or it might mean in an equal protection context, is this idea of equal concern and respect. And now to come back to the idea for the book, I mean, what a mindless exercise, right? I mean, all you do is you get all these thousands of letters and these idiotic responses. I mean, you ought to see the responses people get. I mean, they have no idea what the issue is. You just compile them into a book, and it can be, constantly, added to, etc. And, I think it's one of these things where there's every reason to do it, no reason not to do it. Will it help? I don't know, but it certainly is not going to hurt.
Well, I would say this.
Interesting book.
I don't think I understood your concept until now. But I would say this, the idea that the letter and then the IRS response, because you and I, we know what those are.
The congressional response, right? They're writing
give us your letter and give us their response and your whole chain.
Yeah.
That is one of the best pieces of art to explain our world. That is so utterly brilliant, because these letters, because I read these and I talk to people, I know what it is. They're up at night. Anthony, I've been sleeping I couldn't sleep all night. What's that? What's going on? I know. And then you get these responses. My favorite response of the IRS is this one. You get this one. We got your correspondence, and just to let you know, we'll respond to you in another 30 days because we need more time.
Yeah, well, remember, Anthony, that's IRS correspondence. That would be another book, actually.
Oh, okay.
The IRS. That might.
Yeah, this is to Congress.
Wait, this is the response from the
representatives in Congress.
Oh,
that's what John.
No,
that's what John's speaking of.
Oh,
and that's what we need to put together is a collection of these correspondence.
But Anthony, this is a great idea. I think we should have another book. Letters.
Yeah, but maybe another one, right? It's like, well, no, you know what? Well, actually, I think you're right, because there's two books, because you could sort of see the similarity. You have
is, it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't care that they don't care. I mean, I've already gotten a few of these in from people, and I mean, it confirms what I already know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is so clear that our representatives in Congress have no idea about this issue, and they're not motivated to learn about it. And this is why this is an important book. And I would ask Keith, with your sort of presence in these forums, to get this thing out, because
sure.
I mean, we want this in a Word files. Okay, obviously, if they want to, they can take out their identifying information. Probably.
Well, John, where should they be sending these to? Should they go to where should they be sending?
Yeah, so they can send it to letters@seatnow.org. Letters, LETTERS at seatnow.org.
Or I'll put that in the description. So letters
at cbtlawsuit.org, or maybe I should have a different. Maybe we'll make it love letters. No, just letters.
It's cbtlawsuit.org. Okay, so I'll put that link to the email in the description if you haven't heard it, if you didn't hear it. So letters at cbtlawsuit. And I mean, this is wonderful. This is wonderful, right? Because we haven't like. And this is, and I don't know if I touched on this before, and just to touch back on one of the problems with the 87,000 new IRS agents. That the way the IRS looks at this is, think about this. Would you rather audit a small guy domestically or a small guy who has an international thing? He's got some international thing, whether it was an inheritance overseas or whether he was living overseas. It's like, which one would you rather do? Well, this is what it comes down to.
Anthony, the international audit. Okay, remember that the forms generate penalties. All right, Americans abroad, because everything's foreign. I'll send this over to you. I once wrote a blog post called Forms 101. All right, describing forms Americans abroad may, and I can't, it was an old post, but I think it was somewhere in the 40s. It was a lot of forms. And most of these come with, presumptively $10,000 penalties. So, I mean, I'm just looking at this, I'm not as a business decision from the point of view of the IRS. I'm sure the IRS has plenty of decent human beings and plenty that are not so decent, like every other sector of humanity, right? But if this becomes a business decision, I mean, not only can they find tax deficiencies, but they can find form deficiencies, right? Which are gonna. So.
Yeah, no. Try, right. That's something you need to understand, people. You could owe zero in taxes and be assessed a $10,000 penalty very easily. We have a case right now going on where the taxpayer was assessed 5471 penalties for a controlled foreign corporation that stopped existing in 2002. And we told the appeals officer that, well, he goes, well, you prove it to me. You prove to me that this business didn't exist. Like, well, a certificate of non-existence doesn't exist, you moron. You utter moron. So, I mean, that's the kind of, and that's IRS appeals. And let me just be honest, they used to be smart. And these people are just not there, and they're just taking the orders from above. So IRS appeals is not what they are. And that is really why we got to get concerned. And that's why you really want to get your letters out. Here it is. This is going to be something. How to put these all together. Let's get you, I mean, this is real.
Oh, by the way, let me just throw out this as well. This type of thing is a lot of work. So if there's anybody out there who, is looking for a project and wants to make a contribution, yeah, we need your help. Okay.
To collate the letters.
Yeah. The simple idea is God, they're a lot of work. So if there's anybody who, a retired editor or journalist, or I'm talking to you. All right.
Yeah. We don't have a big audience, but our audience quality is incredible. The level of intelligence of our viewers is I have the analytics. Right.
So that's good.
So I'm sure we have some people out there.
Absolutely.
Now I do want it now. So we're getting to bad things, good things. Hey, we got this going on. Okay, that's nice. That's a nice political thing to get people going concerned. However, we have some other things going on that are really interesting. Some good news. So I want to talk about some of the good news. Okay, going back to this one, West Virginia versus EPA. Nope, not a tax-related thing, but it was a Supreme Court saying, hey, when you pass a regulation, there's got to be a law, and you just can't create a law out of thin air. And we got plenty of arguments going on with that. The other thing coming up on the docket is there's a Bittner FBAR case coming up on the Supreme Court, and with the EPA decision, I'm kind of expecting a positive result. I think it's going to be a good result for Bittner. I don't know how far the Supreme Court would go. Hopefully they'll go so far as to say, actually 5314 doesn't even require an FBAR. Where are the guys you get this from? You made it up. Hopefully it goes there. But there's something else that just came out. And we're going to spend some time on it. It just came out, and I want to make you guys aware of it. It's this decision right here, Harper versus Redding. And this actually may be the biggest tax case to come out since Glenn Shaw Glass. And the reason why is that this involved cryptocurrencies. And I'll give you a little bit. We're going to cover this more. This involved cryptocurrencies, and if you guys recall, what the IRS was doing was they were sending out these subpoenas to Coinbase. That was one of the things. Like, hey, you got to tell us about everybody who owns your stuff and just send it to you. Now, these aren't 1099s or anything like this. This is just sort of information farming. And so a plaintiff was so offended by this, he decided to sue. He decided to sue the IRS, and I'm sure in a case that 20 attorneys told him he was stupid to do. He prevailed. He prevailed. So we have this new case, another case that allows something called, it's a little complicated. I'm not, and I recall it's the Anti-Injunction Act is now something that can be used against the IRS. And so now taxpayers can sue. Taxpayers can sue the IRS, and it's something that they have been frustrated from before. And let me just try to get a quote from one of the attorneys on this. So that we could hear. Yeah, he's got a great quote, like incredibly pertinent for today. This guy is awesome. They just got to be awesome. I hope I meet them. I'm a fan already. I'm like looking at this. I'm like, oh, I am a fan of these guys. I don't even know where they are, but their work is awesome. Let me get the screen share to get this quote here. These guys, the NCLA. I don't know who they are, but I like them. New Civil Liberties Alliance. So here's the money quote, and this is the case that they success. I believe they were. I'm going to have to look this up. Hopefully, I can get them on. The bad news is the federal government recently passed a law that could lead to hiring over 86,000 new IRS agents. The good news is that courtesy of the First Circuit's ruling, brave individual taxpayers like Mr. Harper may now sue the Internal Revenue Service and its new agents when it tramples on their constitutional rights.
Well, that's great.
We get more to that, huh? That sounds pretty good, huh?
Except for that, there are fewer and fewer constitutional rights. That's the only problem.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go. There's a problem.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt that a series of decisions over the last year or so. And let me give a shout out to the Monty Silver stuff too, right? Which is part of the family of this type of things. Okay, the collective impact of this stuff is breaking down the wall preventing individual taxpayers from being able to sue Treasury, etc. And I don't know how far this is going. The wall is cracking. It hasn't come down. But
all right. So you know what you're begging me to ask the
CBT lawsuit.
You're begging me to ask this question, John. You got me optimistic. So here's my question for you. Is there a better time than now than to be a plaintiff?
Oh, my God, Anthony. I mean, that's like asking John Templeton if there's a better time to invest than now. No, absolutely. Getting back to the CBT lawsuit thing, we absolutely get in touch with me, John at cbtlawsuit.org, John at cbtlawsuit.org. Talk about being a plaintiff. I really feel that this lawsuit represents the work done by a lot of people for a decade in various areas. The time has clearly come, right, contextually, for this. It's a nonpartisan thing, and I'd be very disappointed if somehow this got weaponized into Republicans versus down. It's again, what unites.
It's a great distraction.
Is far greater than what divides them, and we need plaintiffs of all types, starting with expats, immigrants, people who are trying to live permanently, and accidental people who maybe never lived in the United States, and we need them. Those are who we're looking for, okay? And then there are, various issues they may have encountered. But the thread that runs through all the issues is how the U.S. tax code impacts them more negatively, essentially creates a separate and more punitive tax system for Americans living outside the United States. That's the basis of it. And we'll talk more about this, but yeah, absolutely, the best.
And I think
a plaintiff is now.
It's absolutely right now, and I think, and I liked how you described it. Let's because sometimes as attorneys we get boxed into forms and stuff like this. No. Let's talk about you as a person first. How do you feel that the IRS has violated your constitutional rights to peace?
Not the IRS, Anthony. It's Congress and Treasury. The IRS, honestly, it doesn't seem to be doing much, right? In the area of Americans abroad. At least that's my general sense of it, right? I mean, sure, the people in the system definitely have their headwinds, but the problem is Congress and Treasury. Now, why Treasury? Because Treasury has the statutory authority to fix this. All right.
Does,
And,
yeah, correct.
I wrote a paper, it must be a couple of years ago now, regulatory fix for citizenship taxation, along with Dr. Karen Alpert and Dr. Laura Snyder. I mean, you never get anything everybody agrees on, but I mean, it certainly was out there. And that paper explains how and why Treasury, through regulation, has the authority to fix these things, and they have not fixed them. And that's why the issue is Treasury and Congress. Okay, it's
that's right.
The IRS, but they're not the issue here.
And if it, and I would say that that was that's something that I actually didn't necessarily believe you that much a couple of years ago when you had that. I'm like, what
believe me?
Talking about a few weeks ago, we did discover it, and so for those wondering how this is possible, it's basically comes down to this, and we cover this. There is no definition of individual in the U.S. income tax code. It just says there's statuses individuals have, but individual itself isn't defined. As John mentioned, it goes off of basically what everybody thought individual meant in 1954. So when you go to the regulations are defining individual. Well, regulations defining individuals can fix all this problem. So that's why Treasury has this 100% in their power to fix. And they're creating nightmares for everyone, and even their friends in the IRS, for what they refuse to fix.
Yeah, and in some cases, it seems to me that it's more than statutory authority to fix. In some areas, I think it's a statutory directive to deal with it. One example would be, on the issue of the accidental Americans, and this would be, I think,
we better get going here. We're a little bit, we better get going on. We better get going right now. We're short for time. I want it, but this is going on right now. Plaintiffs, if you are just somebody, and we have these comments, it doesn't cost you anything to send an email to John to say, hey, look, this is my situation, and I'm thinking I really want to talk to someone to kind of describe what's going on. And then it doesn't cost you anything to tell your story. Here's the letter I sent, and here's the response. Here's the humiliating response I got from someone who can't even pretend they care. They don't, right? They can't even pretend. They can't even act like they care.
Yeah.
So that's it. So we have so many exciting things coming up. Be sure to subscribe. It is getting hot. It is not slowing down. Very exciting times, and we can all handle it together. Keith and John, thank you so much for another incredible episode. Again, thanks to our viewers, and thanks to everybody out there who's fighting this monster. This is Anthony Parent for IRS Medic. Thanks again.